Another great entrepreneur is coming up on stage in a moment. Tevin Tobun, CBE. Tevin is a logistics and supply chain expert. He's built a successful business in the sector. Again, that's often overlooked when it comes to black entrepreneurship. We'll meet him in a moment, find out more about his journey and where he plans to go from here. But first, let's have a look at him in action.
I think fundamentally, needs to be an understanding that if you set up a business and you're new, you might not have the balance sheet, you might not have enough turnover. So it's around creating flexibility around those rules, but understanding that you might need to look at the framework and the criteria and how people enter the supply chain, and just being focused on how you really encourage new entrants into the market. And eventually small companies get big and then you take that experience. So flexibility around the supply chain, understanding new entrants, really allowing different framework to really encourage people, and really removing the red tape and allowing people to be able to kind of have a simple process to be able to deliver good service, which of course contributes to the economy.
Tevin Tobun, please come on stage. Now, when I saw you here last year, okay, carry on. If you really want, go on. Let's say something, say for the Jimmy Cliff version, is it? No? Okay, are you going to chat here for a bit, Tevin, and then you and I will sit down and talk. Okay,
right.
Okay, go for it.
Sorry guys, I need to apologize. I've got to get a flight. So Byron is like my brother, and honestly, I love what he does. I've got to thank you, Henry. I saw you last year. Mayank, you've been doing this quietly for a very, 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 very long time. One of my very early awards, actually, I think Byron and I's awards was MSD UK. I think what happens in this room often, of course, you, Carlton, I think I said it, I don't even talk on social media, so for me to say that, everyone's calling me like, you talk about people on social media? I don't do these things. But I think the reason why sometimes often is that there's so many people who build and who are currently and constantly pushing people, and they kind of go under the radar. So we end up standing up and getting all the glory, but I promise you, I wouldn't be here without the help of so many people. But I'll just tell you a little bit of myself so I don't bore you to death. So these are my companies. I started about 23 years ago. I graduated from university. Andy, I didn't study philosophy. I was smart enough.
Tevin, say that again and look at that man there.
I know, I did.
This man.
They remind you from Southeast London, don't even bother studying philosophy, you're not getting a job. But I think the reality was I saw there was a space, pretty much like Byron, that I could use technology, and I saw that the world was kind of getting fascinated with mobile phones. And my argument was that, well, I could create a relationship with your mobile phone for you to see exactly what your supply chain would look like, and we just focus on efficiency. My argument wasn't to argue with the big companies. I was going to create a very slim plug and play that would even make the big companies look good. And if there's anything really to learn from today, is that your idea shouldn't be about fighting the world. It should be about finding a unique space that plugs and plays. So when you walk into a room, actually even the big companies say, you know what, this makes us look good, let's sign it. And I think that is the moment people forget you're black. For some people in this room, I'm sure they might not have the same experiences, but I promise you, you walk into a room sometimes, no matter, and if you know me, I wear the hell out of some suits. You walk into a room with a nice suit and it still doesn't help you. Because fundamentally what often happens is when people see you as a black person, they see risk, and they then try to mitigate the risk. And I think what happens then is that, the bankers in here would tell you, all of a sudden, we can't give you that much money, we can give you this much money, and actually all that does is give you a 6-month runway and you'll collapse the business anyway. Yeah. And then they use that to tell you, see, we know you're not good in business. But I'll just tell you a little bit. So GV Group is one of the largest last mile delivery company in the country. Food Move does cold and chilled and frozen supply chain logistics. Platebox does all the school dinners that you ever hear about across the country. So when people are a bit cheesed off about school meals, they call me, then I go to the school, and then we'll kind of find a solution to make sure all the kids can have proper meals. Repco is a last-mile supply chain in energy and renewable services across the world. And of course, my foundation. And I'll go to the last one at the top, is Rooted Technology. So a few years ago, I was kind of getting to the next phase of what things should look like. And I was very early in understanding what AI and generative AI would do to the supply chain industry. And my argument was that, well, if we create these pockets, they're absolute geniuses in their pockets, it means that big companies, you can just pick the bits you want. I have never been someone that cares about fame. If you know me, you know I hate the bloody thing. I just want to be the guy who gets the money. I'm in the background, I'm doing what I'm doing, I focus on what I'm doing, and I strive for excellence all day long. But I will tell you something. Let me tell you about my failures. The biggest thing that happened is that you start on this trajectory of success and you just keep moving. What you don't think about sometimes is how you leave yourself open. So I'll tell you a little story. I had a client that loved me so, honestly. If I give him an idea, let's sign. 5, 10 years, the relationship was incredible. Then we need to renew the contract. The client clearly had a good relationship with me, so couldn't tell me that they're not renewing the contract. What ended up happening is that overnight you lose, 40, 50% of your turnover because you'd given too much power to the client. So I say that to say this. Of course, I'm standing here, so I survived. But that is the point. You have to really be relentless in your own pursuit of greatness. Because what the client forgot is I didn't start the business of the client. I started the business before I met the client, so I would always going to survive. And I think you would have the peaks and troughs, you would have the valleys, you'd have the toughest time, you'd have, I think the point Andy was making, it's very lonely, I promise you. But if you love this thing, if you love it, like love it, like you see how Byron smiles all the time? If you love it like that, it'd be the greatest journey you've ever had. Thank you so much.
How much time do you have? A couple of minutes. Okay, just a couple of minutes, Tevin.
Hello.
Yeah, it's okay. So you're not into the fame. You do like the fortune.
I knew I was going to regret that.
No. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, okay, do this one instead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Come on, people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, at what point did you realize that you had to be relentless in your own pursuit of greatness? That really struck me. That line, I thought, that is the line. I've only got 2 minutes with him, that's the question.
So I learned very early. So I'll tell you what. So when I first started, so there's this little story. So the G and the V, right, stands for Gate Ventures. I think Mayank might know the story. Yeah. And I started a company with a very close friend of mine. And I said, look, I've got this idea. I think we can make it work. But the challenges that you go through as a young kid from South London, sometimes what it does is it just rips your belief. And we don't have that audacity of hope. We don't believe that actually I can do this and I can actually make this work. And I think if there's anything that you can give to people, is the ability to believe. That is worth more than anything. So he just said, look, mate, I don't think I can do this. And I think that was the very first day that I learned that this might not be easy. Then the second experience is I'd applied for a very well-known, I don't really want to blow their name because I think they've done a great job since. A very well-known kind of funding organization, very connected to the people that you know. Anyway, so I applied for £3,000 and they turned me down. And one of their reasons was that, you know what, we think your idea is a bit too elaborate. But you got to think about this. One of the guys who interviewed me ended up working for me. So, but I'm not even saying this to show, I'm trying to make you understand that sometimes your vision, your dream might be bigger than some people that you're expecting to validate them. They don't mean to tell you this too big, but they can't see it. So if I can't see what's outside, how can I tell you you should go outside? So yes, you're going to have times where you need someone to validate, but just be careful of going to the wrong person, because what happened that day is I walked out of that interview and I was thinking, do you know what? They might be right. These people look older than me. They look clever than me. Let me just leave this thing alone and go and work. I took the bus. By the time I got home, I changed my mind. And that journey changed my life forever. Because if I had taken the advice, I definitely wouldn't be sat here. So I think that's one of the things really that kind of taught me very early that this is going to be about relentless and pursuit of greatness.
I need to get you onto your relentless flight.
Yes,
So,
my man.
Tevin Tobun.
Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you very much. Beautiful. Safe journey. Fantastic. Brilliant.